Take the dress off slowly, sweetheart. Stolen property goes back to the store.
Officer, this is my wedding.
Sit down, sir, or you'll honeymoon in a cell.
That veil was her grandmother's! He ripped it off her head!
Evidence. The little crown comes off, too. Now you match the booking photo.
She paid for that dress! I have the receipt right here!
Phone evidence isn't evidence. Hands behind your back, girl. Now.
I'll go quietly. One thing first.
You don't get requests, sweetheart.
Run my name. Spell it right.
Dispatch, run a name. Female, black, mid-30s. Alicia Owens. O-W-E-N-S. Unit 12. Stand by.
What dispatch said next silenced every cop on that channel. But first, the morning it all began. Have you ever been accused of stealing the life you built yourself?
The morning broke soft and gold over Bellamy Ridge Vineyard, an hour west of Richmond, Virginia. Mist hung low between the vine rows. October light made the hills look brushed in copper. The air smelled of cut grass and crushed grapes, sweet and sharp at once. White chairs stood in patient lines on the lawn. A string quartet tuned beneath an arch of cream roses, and somewhere behind the farmhouse, a caterer shouted about ice. Inside the bridal suite, Alicia Owens stood very still while her sister pinned the veil. 38 years old, calm eyes, hands that never fidgeted. The veil was lace, soft as breath, passed down from a grandmother who had cleaned hotel rooms for 40 years so her family could climb. Alicia touched the hem once, then let it go. If you asked the guests what the bride did for a living, most would shrug. Something with the city, they'd say. Government work. Alicia never corrected them. She had spent 15 years learning that silence gathers more truth than questions do. Even Elliot's mother, who pried at everything, had gotten nothing but a warm smile and a change of subject. Elliot Hayes had proposed on a Tuesday in the rain outside the diner where they'd met. He was an architect, patient, exact, the kind of man who measured twice for everything except falling in love. That, he liked to say, he'd done in one look. Alicia had laughed and said she'd needed 3. She didn't tell him she'd also checked the exits first. Elliot knew what she did. You don't marry a stranger. But they had agreed this weekend belonged to the cake and the dance floor, not to her work. One day, she had said, "Where I'm just Alicia." He had promised. Old habits lived in her like a second skeleton. At restaurants, she always took the chair facing the door. She read rooms the way other people read menus. That morning, Denise held up a folded napkin from the head table and grinned. Who folds napkins like they're standing for inspection? Alicia smiled and said nothing. Denise fixed the last pin and stepped back. Grandma would lose her mind today, she whispered. For a second, the calm cracked and Alicia's eyes went glassy. Then she breathed in the way she always did. 4 counts in, 4 counts out, and the stillness returned. Their grandmother's photo sat on the gift table in a silver frame. Outside, the quartet found its tune. 9 miles east in the town of Caro Mills, a bridal boutique had a problem. A sample gown, designer, beaded, worth more than a used car, had vanished from a fitting room the week before. The local paper ran 2 paragraphs about it. The owner filed a report and pinned a grainy photo by the register. No suspects, no leads, just a missing dress and an open file sitting in the county system like a loaded spring. That same week, inside the Carroll County Police Department, Sergeant Wade Cutler had read an internal memo twice. Then, a 3rd time. New leadership incoming, it said. Internal Affairs Bureau, restructured. a new commander, sworn in Tuesday, with a mandate to reopen old complaints. Cutler had stood by the coffee machine with the memo in his hand, and a patrolman later remembered one strange detail. The sergeant's face had gone the color of wet ash. By 11, the lawn at Bellamy Ridge had filled. 150 guests. Hats and linen suits, perfume and laughter. Folding chairs creaked. Children chased each other between the vine rows. Somebody's uncle was already crying. The quartet played something tender. Elliot stood at the arch, rocking on his heels, grinning at everyone and no one. Reverend Samuel Boone opened his worn Bible and found the page he'd marked. Then the music turned, and Alicia came down the aisle on her own 2 feet. No one gave her away. She had told Denise why. She'd given herself to this life one careful choice at a time. Guests stood, phones rose, Elliot's chin trembled. The morning held its breath, gold and perfect. And 9 miles east, at 6 minutes past 11, a call landed at County Dispatch. The voice was muffled, flattened, strangely rehearsed. It reported a disturbance at Bellamy Ridge Vineyard, a woman in a stolen designer gown. The caller used one phrase most civilians never use. Then the line went dead, and somewhere on Route 9, a patrol car swung around with its lights off. At County Dispatch, Dana Whitfield took the call at 11:06. She had worked the board for 9 years, and she graded voices the way teachers grade essays. This one bothered her. Male, muffled, flat. Not panicked, not annoyed, rehearsed. It described a black woman in a stolen designer gown causing a disturbance at Bellamy Ridge Vineyard. It used a piece of language that snagged in Dana's ear like a thorn. Then it hung up before she could ask a single question. Procedure said log it, broadcast it, move on. She logged it. She broadcast it. But she also typed 4 words into the call notes that would matter very much later. Caller declined to identify. 12 miles south, Officer Kyle Brennan heard the broadcast and turned the cruiser around before dispatch finished talking. "That's not our zone," Officer Tyler Novak said from the passenger seat. He was 26, 8 months out of the academy, still polishing his boots every night. "Unit 8's closer." "Unit 8 drives like my grandmother." Brennan accelerated. "Stolen gown, fancy vineyard. You know what that is? That's a felony with witnesses. That's a clean collar." Novak looked at the screen. "Shouldn't we call the boutique first? Confirm the gown's even theirs?" "Confirm." Brennan said the word like it tasted bad. 12 years, rookie. You develop an instinct. Some people belong at a place like Bellamy Ridge. He checked his mirror and smiled. And some people are shopping for a story. Novak said nothing. He'd been riding with Brennan for 5 weeks, long enough to learn that silence was the cheapest seat in the car. But his stomach had started doing the thing it did before bad calls. There were stories about Brennan around the department, traded, quietly, the way you pass a dish you don't want. 9 complaints in 12 years. Words like discourteous and improper stop, living in files nobody opened. Every one had been reviewed and signed off by the same supervising sergeant. Every one had evaporated. Brennan called them love letters from sore losers. He'd never once been disciplined, and he drove like a man who knew he never would be. The cruiser came up Route 9 with its lights off. Brennan liked arriving quiet. He said loud arrivals gave people time to perform. The truth was simpler. He liked the moment a scene noticed him. The ripple, the way conversations died in his direction. At the gate, a vineyard coordinator with a clipboard tried to wave him toward guest parking. Brennan rolled past her.
She would testify later that she told him twice, "Private event, a wedding." He'd answered, "I know exactly what it is." At the arch, Reverend Boone had just reached the vows. Elliot went first, voice cracking on the second sentence. 150 guests laughed and cried at once, the way good weddings make people do. Alicia took his hands. The October light came through the rose arch and turned her grandmother's lace into a soft halo. She opened her mouth to speak. That was when the doors of the scene swung open. Not doors exactly, but that's how guests described it later. A presence cut up the aisle like a draft of cold air, boots on grass, a duty belt creaking, a radio murmuring on a hip. "Sorry, folks, this isn't part of the program." The quartet faltered and stopped. Brennan walked the length of the aisle the way men walk into rooms they're sure they own. Novak trailed 3 steps back, eyes down. "Ma'am, step away from the gentleman. We've got a report of a stolen gown matching this description. Designer make, beadwork." He gestured at her like an appraiser. "Look at this. Tag still on. People like you don't come through the front door of that store." A sound moved through the guests, half gasp, half growl. Elliot stepped forward. "Officer, this is my wedding. Sit down, sir, or you'll honeymoon in a cell." Alicia did not move. Later, dozens of guests would describe the same thing. The bride going perfectly still, her chin level, her breathing slow. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. "Officer," she said evenly, "what's your name and badge number?" "I ask the questions. ID, now." "My wallet is in the bridal suite, 60 feet behind you. I'll walk there with you and hand it to you myself." "So you're refusing to identify?" Brennan pulled out his citation pad like a man dealing cards. "Refusing to comply. We're in resisting territory now, sweetheart." "No one is resisting anything," she said. "You're escalating a wedding." Elliot had his phone out, hands shaking, scrolling. Here, the receipt. Hargrove Bridal, paid in full, 4 months ago. There's the gown, there's the order number." Brennan didn't lower his eyes to the screen. Not once. "Phone evidence isn't evidence. Anyone can type up a receipt." "Then call the boutique!" Denise's voice tore across the lawn. She was coming down the aisle with her bouquet still in her fist. "It's Saturday. They're open. Call them!" "Ma'am, back up." "That's my sister!" "Back up." Novak shifted his weight. "Kyle, maybe we should check the receipt first." "Phone evidence isn't evidence, rookie." Brennan didn't even turn his head. Watch the crowd. Phones were up everywhere now, 100 small black rectangles, all recording. Reverend Boone closed his Bible, came down from the arch, and placed his body gently and deliberately between Brennan and the bride. "Son," Boone said, "I've baptized half this county. I know this woman. Whatever you think is happening here, it isn't. Reverend, move, or you're next." "I've been arrested before," Boone said softly. "Birmingham, 1963. I was 9 years old." "Then you know how it goes. Move." Someone in the 3rd row shouted about a lawyer. Someone else was crying. A child asked very clearly in the silence why the policeman was being mean to the princess. Brennan reached past the Reverend and took hold of the veil. What happened next exists on 80 recordings from 80 angles, and every single one is hard to watch. He ripped it off her head. Pins tore loose. A strip of antique lace, sewn by a hotel maid in 1968, worn by 3 brides since, fluttered to the grass like a shot bird. Guests screamed. Denise lunged and was caught by 2 cousins.
That veil was her grandmother's! He ripped it off her head! Evidence. Brennan tossed it to Novak, who held it the way you'd hold something still alive. The little crown comes off too. Now you match the booking photo. He spun Alicia by the arm. The seam at her shoulder gave with a sound like a struck match. Satin, fitted over 4 months, tore to the blade of her shoulder. The cuffs clicked once, twice, too tight, deliberately tight. The quartet's cellist, a 60-year-old man, stood up and turned his chair to face away. He said afterward it was the only protest he could think of.
The lawn had gone wrong in the way places do after accidents. Spilled programs in the grass, a flower girl face down in her mother's lap, refusing to look. The cake, 3 tears waiting under glass, suddenly something from another, kinder timeline. Elliot's own groomsmen held him back. All of them knew, the way every guest suddenly, sickly knew, that one wrong step from him meant 2 arrests instead of 1. He looked at his bride, cuffed under the rose arch, lace halo gone, shoulder bare to the cold. And his bride looked calm. That was the detail no one could explain that night. No tears, no shaking. Alicia Owens stood in the ruin of her own wedding, like a woman reading a report she had already finished writing.
I'll go quietly, she said. One thing first. You don't get requests, sweetheart. She turned her head, just enough to find Brennan's eyes. Guests in the front row said her voice dropped into a register they had never heard from her. Quiet, procedural, almost gentle. Run my name. Spell it right. Novak would remember that sentence for the rest of his career. Not the words, the tone. People asking favors don't sound like that. People giving last chances do. Brennan laughed. A short, ugly bark. The last carefree sound he would make for a very long time. The back seat of a patrol car is designed to make you small. Hard plastic, no door handles, a cage of steel mesh between you and the world. Alicia sat with her hands pinned behind her, torn satin pooling around her like spilled milk. Through the window, she watched her wedding die. Caterers stood frozen with trays. The arch of cream roses leaned where someone had bumped it. Her grandmother's veil lay across Novak's passenger seat in an evidence bag, folded like a dead language. She catalogued all of it, calmly, professionally. Witnesses, 150. Recordings, dozens, multiple angles. Time of detention, 11:31. No Miranda. No stated charge. Cuffs double locked? No, she'd felt them tighten when she shifted. A violation. She filed it away. Novak appeared at the window, hovering. Ma'am, those cuffs. If they're too tight, I can... Leave them, Brennan called from the hood of the cruiser, where he'd spread his paperwork, like a man at a picnic. Tight cuffs improve memory. She'll remember where she got the dress. I remember everything, Alicia said quietly. Nobody understood the sentence yet. Brennan was writing. He wrote slowly, with the tip of his tongue at the corner of his mouth, choosing words the way some men choose fishing lures. Subject became agitated. Subject refused lawful commands. Subject physically resisted detention. Novak read the lines upside down and felt his stomach drop again. He had been there. He had seen a woman stand still in a garden. She didn't resist, Novak said, quiet, careful. Report's not about what happened, rookie. Brennan didn't look up. It's about what holds up. Then Brennan glanced at the small camera on his own chest. Battery's been acting up, he said, and pressed the power stud until the light went dark. Novak would testify to that moment under oath 11 days later. Novak's own camera stayed on. Brennan never thought to check it. In 12 years, no one had ever checked his. Nobody had called Hargrove Bridal. The boutique sat 9 miles away, open, phone silent. The owner was steaming a sample gown by the register under the grainy photo of the real thief. A photo that showed, to anyone who looked, a white woman in her 20s. Verification would have taken 90 seconds. It was the most expensive phone call never made. On the lawn, the wedding was becoming something else. A scene. Guests clustered in rings, hugging, replaying their videos with shaking hands. The footage was already moving, cousin to cousin, group chat to group chat, phone to phone across 3 states. An aunt in Atlanta watched it twice and called her son, who clerked for a federal judge. A college roommate in Chicago watched it once and started typing names of news stations. No one had posted it publicly yet. It was worse than that. It was spreading through 10,000 living rooms with the caption, "This is Alicia. This is her wedding." Elliot stood at the fence line with his collar open and his boutonniere crushed, phone to his ear, talking to a law school friend. His voice was doing something between rage and arithmetic. No charge stated. Yes, 80 videos at least. No, she's calm. He glanced at the cruiser and his voice cracked. "She's sitting in there in her wedding dress, man." Denise was not crying anymore. Denise was dialing. She stood apart from everyone, by the gift table, her grandmother's photo in the silver frame, watching her. The number she dialed wasn't saved under a name. It was saved under 3 letters Alicia had made her memorize in the spring. The instructions had come with no explanation. "If something ever happens to me, and it involves a badge, call this number. Say my full name, then do whatever the voice says." Denise pressed call. Somewhere in Richmond, a phone lit up on a desk that very few people in the state had the clearance to sit behind. "This is Denise Owens," she said. "My sister is Alicia Owens, Alicia. It's happening." Back at the cruiser, Brennan finished his masterpiece of a report and stretched. The morning had turned out fine, in his estimation. Clean collar, fancy venue, a story for the locker room. He keyed the radio with one thumb, casual, like ordering lunch. "Dispatch, Unit 12, got a female in custody at Bellamy Ridge, that gown call. Run a name for me. Female, black, mid-30s. Alicia Owens. Owens. In the dispatch center, Dana Whitfield typed the name into the system. The return came up in under 4 seconds. She read it again. Her coffee stopped halfway to her mouth, and a dispatcher 2 chairs down heard her whisper 2 words to herself. "Oh no." "Unit 12, she said, keying her mic slowly, the way you approach a downed power line. "Stand by." 8 seconds. That's how long the channel stayed empty after Dana said, "Stand by." 8 seconds is nothing in a kitchen, and an eternity on a police radio. Up and down the county, units listening to the gown call heard that silence and sat up straighter. Because dispatchers don't hesitate. Hesitation means the system just showed them something the street doesn't know yet. In the dispatch center, Dana Whitfield stared at her screen and made a decision that wasn't hers to make. There was a protocol for this. There was also a man at a vineyard with a person in custody. She keyed her mic and chose every word like a step on ice. "Unit 12, be advised." A breath. The name returns clear. No warrants, no record. Another breath. Units across the county would swear they heard paper rustle near the mic. Unit 12. That name returns to Deputy Chief Alicia Owens, Commander of the Internal Affairs Bureau, sworn in last Tuesday. Beat. Unit 12. She is your chain of command. Confirm copy. Silence has flavors. There's the silence of an empty room. The silence after thunder.
And then there's the silence that fell over that frequency, county-wide. Patrol cars rolling to soft stops on shoulders. A sergeant in a parking lot setting down his sandwich. Brennan stood with the radio halfway to his mouth and did not move. The color left his face in stages, like a tide going out. He looked at the radio as if it were an object that had appeared in his hand by magic and started saying impossible words. Novak took half a step backward, pure animal instinct, the urge to be outside a blast radius. The wind moved through the vine rows. A guest's phone, still recording, caught the only sound on that lawn. 150 people breathing. Unit 12, confirm copy. Dana again, steel in it now. Brennan's thumb pressed the key. It took him 2 tries. Copy. Then the channel did something veteran dispatchers say almost never happens. It stayed silent. No unit broke in with traffic. Nobody requested a status. An entire county's worth of police radio simply held its breath, because every officer listening was running the same math. Wedding. Gown call. No verification. The new head of internal affairs in handcuffs. The math came out the same in every car. Here is what the county knew about Alicia Owens, and what Brennan was learning in the worst way available. 15 years of service. She'd started on patrol in Baltimore, nights, foot posts, the sectors nobody requested. Made detective in 5. Then a decade in internal investigations. The unit cops fear more than gunfire, the place where careers go to be x-rayed. 200 misconduct cases. A conviction list that included a deputy commander and an entire evidence room crew. A commendation from the governor of Maryland sat in a box, still wrapped, because she found framed praise embarrassing. And in the spring, the city of Cairo had come asking. Quietly. Their department had a problem. A pattern of complaints that kept evaporating. A culture nobody inside could crack open. They needed an outsider with a steel stomach. Someone complaint-proof. The city manager's exact words in a closed session. We need the cleanest pair of hands in 3 states. She'd been sworn in on Tuesday. Small ceremony, no press. Her first day at headquarters was scheduled for the Monday after her honeymoon. The chair facing the door, the napkins folded for inspection. Something with the city. Every small oddity her guests had giggled at for years had been the visible edge of a 15-year iceberg. At the cruiser, Brennan opened the rear door. His hands had suddenly remembered how to be gentle. Ma'am, Chief, we're going to get those off you, right? Don't. The words stopped him like a wall. Alicia turned in the seat, cuffed, shoulder bare, torn satin and all. She looked up at him with the calm that finally made sense. 3 hours of it made sense. I remember everything. Novak heard that sentence again in his head, playing on a loop. Officer Brennan, as of this moment, you were the subject of an active pattern of conduct review. This scene is evidence. You will not alter evidence. The cuffs stay on until they're photographed. Chief, I didn't document everything, she said. That's the job. Today, you'll learn how it's done. Chief Raymond Holloway arrived 11 minutes later. Personal vehicle, golf shirt, face the gray of old concrete. He'd gotten 2 calls in 4 minutes. One from dispatch, one from a Richmond number that outranked his caller ID. He crossed the lawn at a half run, took in the leaning arch, the crying guests, the bride in the back seat, and aged a year per step. Get those cuffs off her, he barked. Now! No. Alicia's voice, even. Not yet. Deputy Chief Holloway. She nodded toward the wedding photographer, a stunned man about to take the most consequential pictures of his career. That gentleman is going to photograph these cuffs, my wrists, this dress, and that officer's citation pad.
Then your department can have its cuffs back.
And so the strangest crime scene documentation in county history happened under a rose arch. A wedding photographer, hands shaking, shot close-ups of a deputy chief in a torn gown. 150 witnesses watched. The head of Internal Affairs ran her own arrest like a case file. When the cuffs finally clicked open, the marks on her wrists got their own photo series. She rubbed them once, stood, and straightened what remained of the dress. Brennan stood at the edge of it all, in the smoking ruin of his own mourning. His report, subject physically resisted detention, sat on the hood of the cruiser, already curling in the breeze. He was beginning to understand the shape of the next year of his life. But Alicia was looking past him. "One question," she said, to no one in particular. Her eyes had gone somewhere else. Back up the timeline, the way investigators travel. Who called it in? Because here was the thing nobody on that lawn had asked yet. The boutique had never reported a black woman. The real thief in the register photo was white. Someone had aimed a phone call at this wedding like a weapon, and whoever it was had used police language to do it. The story broke nationally on Sunday night. By Monday morning, 11 million people had watched a bride get handcuffed under a rose arch, and the Carroll County Police Department's voicemail had collapsed under the weight of the country's opinion. News vans lined the curb outside headquarters like a second police fleet. Inside the building, the air itself had changed. Conversations conducted in murmurs, doors closed softly, the smell of burnt coffee from pots nobody remembered starting. At 8 sharp, Deputy Chief Alicia Owens did the thing nobody expected. She walked into Chief Holloway's office, placed a one-page memo on his desk, and removed herself from the case. "I'm the victim," she said. "Victims don't run their own investigations. Call Richmond. Get state police. Get someone with no friends in this building. And give them everything they ask for before they ask twice." Holloway read the memo twice. "You know you'd be within your rights to..." "The second I touch this case, his lawyer calls it a vendetta." She was already at the door. "I didn't come here to win an argument, Chief. I came here to fix a building. Watch how it looks when it's done right." Captain Laura Stanton of the Virginia State Police arrived that afternoon with 2 investigators, a forensic audio tech, and no visible sense of humor. 22 years on the job, a reputation for being unimpressed by everything except documentation. She commandeered a conference room, taped butcher paper over the interior windows, and started building. Within a day, the room smelled of dry erase markers and cold coffee. The fluorescent lights stayed on so long that officers walking past at midnight could see them glowing through the paper, like something incubating. Stanton's team worked the way masons work, one verified stone at a time. Stone 1, Novak's body cam. 41 unbroken minutes, every second time-stamped. The full audio of the aisle. People like you don't come through the front door of that store. The receipt offered and never looked at. And then, at the cruiser, the sentence that made one of Stanton's investigators actually whistle. "Report's not about what happened, rookie. It's about what holds up." Followed, 90 seconds later, by Brennan announcing his battery was acting up, and the log showing his own camera powered down by hand. Department policy called that a violation. Prosecutors call it consciousness of guilt. Stone 2, the guests. 83 videos collected through a single email address the state police set up, synchronized by a tech into one master timeline, every angle of the veil leaving Alicia's head. The audio of cuffs ratcheting twice past snug. A bride standing so still that laid side by side, 3 different videos looked like photographs. Stone 3. The cruiser's own GPS. Unit 12 had been 12 miles outside its assigned zone when the call dropped. Unit 8 was 4 minutes out. Brennan had announced himself en route before dispatch finished the address. A man not responding to a call, but racing other units to it. Stone 4. The report. Subject became agitated. Subject physically resisted detention. Stanton's team printed those sentences and pinned them beside a still image of Alicia Owens standing motionless in a garden with her chin level. A false official report isn't a personnel matter in Virginia. It's a crime. Then there was the call itself. The audio tech stripped the distortion in one morning. A cheap pitch-shifting app, nothing clever under it. What remained was male, middle-aged, local, calm. And the transcript held the thorn that had snagged in Dana Whitfield's ear on Saturday. Possible 1031 in progress. Civilians say stealing. Civilians say robbery, even when they're wrong about what that word means. Nobody says 1031 unless they've spent years keying a radio. The phone was a prepaid burner, bought with cash. But burners still talk to towers. The call had pinged a single tower covering a strip of Route 9, and inside that strip sat a gas station 2 miles from the precinct. The pump cameras showed nothing. The driver had backed a gray pickup into the corner of the lot out of every angle he knew about. He didn't know about the car wash camera. The owner had installed it last winter after kids kept stealing wax tokens. It caught the truck, the plate, and a man in the driver's seat with a phone to his ear at 11:04 a.m. The plate came back to Sergeant Wade Cutler, 19 years, Carroll County PD, Supervisor of Records and Review. The same name signed at the bottom of every one of Brennan's 9 evaporated complaints. Stanton stood in front of the corkboard for a long time that night, one thumb hooked in her belt, rearranging the pieces in her head until they made the kind of sense that ruins your sleep. Cutler had read the memo about the new Internal Affairs Commander, the outsider, the auditor, the mandate to reopen old complaints. Reopened complaints meant reopened reviews. Reopened reviews meant his signature 9 times under the word unfounded. So he'd looked her up, found the wedding announcement in the county paper, Bellamy Ridge Vineyard, Saturday, 11 a.m. And he had built a trap out of a stolen gown report from the news, a burner phone, and a piece of bait. The bait was the genius of it and the sickness of it. Cutler never ordered anyone to do anything. He just dropped a call he knew would cross Brennan's radio. A black suspect, a luxury venue, a felony collar gleaming like a lure, and trusted 12 years of Brennan's habits to do the rest. If it worked, the new IA boss would be booked, humiliated, maybe gone before her first Monday. A scandal instead of an audit. He had aimed one officer at one bride like a weapon, and the weapon had no idea it had been fired. The 9 old complaints came off the shelf next. Stanton's investigators tracked down every complainant. A barber who'd been stopped 4 times in one summer. A school teacher made to sit on a curb in front of her students. A 19-year-old pulled out of his own driveway. Every complainant, black or brown. Every review closed in under a week. Every signature the same. 2 had moved out of the county entirely. One said, quietly, on tape, "I told the truth 9 years ago. Nobody called me back until today." Stanton listened to that recording twice. Then, she wrote a single line on the butcher paper, in letters big enough to read from the door.
he was never stopped. He was filed. 11 days after the wedding, Brennan sat in the taped-over conference room with a union rep on one side and a lawyer on the other. The chair under him creaked every time he shifted, and he shifted often. His defense lasted 4 sentences. He'd responded to a dispatched call. In good faith, the subject hadn't identified herself. He'd followed his training. Stanton didn't argue. Arguing wasn't her instrument. She just played things, one at a time, and let the room get quieter. She played the receipt being offered, and Brennan's eyes never dropping to the screen. "Good faith calls the boutique," she said. 90 seconds. The number was on the gown's tag you photographed. She played the in-car audio from the drive. "Some people belong at a place like Bellamy Ridge, and some people are shopping for a story." The union rep shifted in his chair like the seat had warmed. She played the camera dying. She laid the report beside the synchronized timeline, physically resisted against 3 angles of a woman standing like a statue. "Tell me which part was the training," Stanton said. Brennan's lawyer asked for a break. It didn't help. Breaks don't change footage. Officer Tyler Novak's 11 days were their own kind of trial. Nobody threatened him. That was the thing he tried to explain to his sister on the phone. Nobody had to. The hallways just went quiet around him. Conversations died in doorways the way they used to die in Brennan's direction. In the parking lot one evening, he found his cruiser's mirror folded flat against the glass. Not broken, just folded. A message with deniability built in. An old instructor from the academy called him, friendly as a handshake, to mention how small a county can get for a cop with a reputation. Novak hung up. Then he sat at his kitchen table with the notebook he'd been filling since Saturday night. Times, quotes, everything, written while it was fresh because his hands had needed something to do. He read it through once, cover to cover, with the kitchen tap dripping and the page corners going soft under his thumb. Monday morning, he carried it into Stanton's conference room and put it on the table. "I should have said more than, maybe we should check the receipt," he said. The words came out rough. "I thought about it every night. She got cuffed at her own wedding while I held her grandmother's veil in a bag." He stopped, jaw working. "Whatever this costs me, write it down. All of it." Stanton looked at him for a moment. "Sit down, officer," she said, and for the first time in 11 days, her voice had something almost warm in it. "Cost is my department now." His testimony sealed every seam in the case. The cuffs tightened on purpose. The camera killed on purpose. The report written like fiction, out loud with commentary. Alicia spoke to Brennan exactly once during those weeks. It wasn't planned. A corridor outside the records office. Him being escorted one way, her walking the other. The escort suddenly very interested in a bulletin board. Brennan stopped. Up close, he looked smaller. The way men do when the thing that inflated them has been confiscated. "Chief?" His voice cracked on the word. "If I had known who you were..." "I know," Alicia said. "That's the confession." He blinked. "If you'd known my rank, I'd have gotten respect. My rank shouldn't have mattered. My receipt should have." She stepped past him, then paused, not turning around. "You didn't see a bride that day. You saw a story you'd already written. That's the problem I was hired to fix. And you've made the case for me better than I ever could." She walked on. Behind her,
Brennan stood in the corridor for a long moment, and the escort had to say his name twice. By the end of the month, Stanton's file ran 600 pages. The state's attorney read it over a weekend and came back Monday with a list of charges that made the morning news in 14 states. The disciplinary board set its hearing for a Thursday, and at 6 a.m. that Thursday, 2 state police cars rolled quietly into the precinct parking lot. Not for Brennan, whose case was already made, but for the man at the records desk who had spent 19 years making things evaporate. Wade Cutler was reaching for his coffee when they came through the door. The disciplinary hearing took 1 day. The criminal cases took months, the way real justice does, slow and procedural and immune to applause. The board read its findings in the municipal auditorium, because no room at police headquarters could hold that many cameras. Officer Kyle Brennan, 12-year veteran, terminated, effective immediately. Decertified by the Commonwealth, barred from carrying a badge in Virginia for life. The state's attorney followed with criminal charges: falsifying an official report, unlawful detention. Facing the synchronized timeline and his own partner's notebook, Brennan took a plea, a conviction on his record, supervised probation, 400 hours of community service. He left the courthouse through a side door, past the janitor who didn't look up, and discovered what it feels like when a scene doesn't notice you at all. Wade Cutler gambled on a trial. It was a mistake. The jury heard the cleaned-up recording, saw the car wash footage, and read his signature 9 times under the word unfounded. The prosecutor's closing took 4 minutes. He didn't break the law in spite of knowing the system, she said. He broke it because he knew the system. Guilty. False report to law enforcement. Obstruction of justice. 3 years, 18 months suspended, and under state law, a forfeited pension. 19 years of retirement, gone with the bang of a gavel. He'd tried to burn down a wedding to save his paperwork. The paperwork testified against him. There was one small, bitter footnote. The real gown thief, a white woman in her 20s, was caught that same month, 2 counties over, trying to return the dress for store credit. The officer who took her into custody called the boutique first. The verification took 90 seconds. Then came the part Alicia had actually been hired for. The department's new directives went out under Holloway's signature, but everyone knew whose hand had drafted them. Anonymous tips now required callback verification or independent corroboration before any custodial action. No exceptions, no instincts. Body cams were replaced with units that couldn't be powered down by hand. The recordings uploaded automatically, beyond any officer's reach. And a 10-year audit of complaint reviews opened 12 old cases. 4 more officers faced discipline. 3 complainants got letters that began with the rarest sentence in American policing: "We were wrong, and here is what we are doing about it." The barber framed his. 2 weeks after the verdicts, Alicia Owens gave her first official address to the assembled department. Patrol, records, dispatch, command staff, every shift crowded into the briefing room, and nobody knew what to expect from the woman the county now called, behind her back and not unkindly, the bride. She didn't bring notes. She brought one request. "Dispatcher Whitfield, stand up, please." Dana stood, blindsided, coffee still in hand. "On October 4th, Alicia said, this dispatcher read a name into a radio, knowing exactly what it would detonate. She had 8 seconds to decide between what was comfortable and what was true. 8 seconds. She let the number sit. Most careers never get tested that hard for that long.
I've investigated police for 15 years, and I'm telling you, courage in this profession doesn't usually look like kicking in a door.
It looks like a steady voice saying an inconvenient thing into a microphone. She crossed the room and shook Dana's hand. The photograph of that handshake, the deputy chief and the dispatcher, both a little glassy-eyed, ended up on the front page of the county paper, and later framed on the dispatch center wall. The room stood. Some rose faster than others. That was honest, and Alicia preferred honest. Respect that has to be grown is sturdier than respect that's performed. When the room emptied, Novak lingered by the door, last in line, still not sure he belonged in it. Alicia stopped in front of him. "You kept your camera on," she said. "It was just policy, Chief." "No," she said. "Policy is what Brennan quoted. What you did was the job." That spring, a letter arrived at headquarters from Bellamy Ridge Vineyard. The owners wished to inform the deputy chief that the Rose Arch had been rebuilt, that October 4th weighed on them, and that their lawn was hers. Any Saturday she chose, no charge, for as long as the vineyard stood. Because one thing remained unfinished, and the whole county knew it. The vows were still owed. On a Saturday in June, the white chairs came back to Bellamy Ridge. Same lawn, same arch, rebuilt, the roses a little fuller. The same 150 guests, plus a few new faces nobody would have predicted in October. At the gate, 8 officers in dress uniforms stood in 2 quiet lines. Nobody had assigned them. They had asked. Tyler Novak stood at the end of the row, white gloves, jaw tight, holding it together until the music started. He didn't manage much past that. Dana Whitfield sat in the 3rd row with a tissue ready. The cellist came back too, same chair, faced the right way this time, playing like a man settling a debt. Reverend Boone took his place beneath the arch and opened his worn Bible to a page that had stayed marked for 8 months. He looked out at all of them and smiled. "As I was saying," he began, and the lawn laughed and cried at once, the way good weddings make people do. Alicia came down the aisle on her own 2 feet, one careful choice at a time. The veil was her grandmother's, repaired by hand. The menders had offered to make the tear invisible. She'd told them to leave a thin seam of new thread where it had ripped. Some history should show. Elliot's voice cracked on the second sentence of his vows. Again. Some things you don't fix. And then Alicia spoke, picking up "witnesses swear" at the exact word where she'd been interrupted in October. She finished every sentence she was owed. When they kissed, the cheers scattered crows out of the vineyard for half a mile. That Monday, a small glass case appeared on the wall of the Internal Affairs Bureau beside the door, where every officer could see it on the way in. Inside, a pair of handcuffs and a strip of torn white satin. No plaque about victory, just a card with one line in the commander's handwriting. "Run every name like it's your own." Real talk. I didn't tell you this story because of one bad cop. I told it because of how easy the system made things for him, and because everybody wants to be the hero with the badge. Most of us just get a microphone, 8 seconds, and a choice. This story is fiction. The county, the vineyard, the names, invented. But the radio silence, the folded mirror, the complaint file signed into quiet, those are stitched together from things that live in real records, more often than anyone wants to count. So here's my question for you. If you had been standing in those vineyard rows, guest, rookie, dispatcher, what would you have done? Not what you hope you'd do, what you'd actually do. Tell me in the comments. I read them. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs the reminder that dignity doesn't require a title. And subscribe, because next week I've got another story about the moment a quiet person stopped being quiet.